If statements. An if statement lets your script make decisions. It checks a condition and runs some code only if that condition is true. Example, if the score is greater than 100, show a level up message. Otherwise, maybe do nothing. Why it's useful. If statements let your script react to different situations and behave differently depending on the data or state. Let's put the if statement into practice. I'll double click the Activity Maker template. We'll create a game called Guess My Number. Essentially in this game, we'll have the computer generate a random number from 0 to 100. We'll then ask the player to guess the number. We'll then compare the generated number with whatever the player inputs, and that's where we'll use the if statement. Once again, we'll add a style. Choose Tools, Design Styles. That shows us our Design Styles Manager, and we'll select Academic. Apply that. I'll also choose Tools and Themes, and because we're using the academic style, I'll choose a background color and go into Advanced, hide the header because the academic style provides a header. Click OK to apply that. Now we're on page 1 of 1. We'll give our page an ID. We'll call this game. This particular page, all pages have a page type. We have a variety of page types. This particular page is a text page type, which is why we see the HTML editor. Let's add a title for our game. I'll center that. And an instruction. You can edit this instruction. I'm just asking the player to click on Generate, and then after inputting a number, clicking on Guess. This is the widget sprocket. So this allows us to insert an activity widget, and the widget that we're looking for is input. So we'll scroll down to input. This allows us to capture the player's input into a variable. So essentially we're declaring a variable in global memory that can be accessed by our script. I'm calling this player num, and it has to be a legal variable name, so all one word. Hit OK. Because it's an activity widget, it's followed by a red dashed line, which the player won't see, but this is helpful for us as authors to be able to know that this is a widget. If you wanted to edit this widget, you just simply click on it, and then again we can be reminded as to what variable name we created. Now I'll add a second widget, and this time the button layout widget, to create our buttons. First button will be called Generate. We'll add a border type. Make that border size 3. Click on the plus button here, or the plus, in order to add a second button. I'll change that border type to roundest border. And finally, for the layout, I'll leave everything alone, but for the justify, I'll make these buttons hug the right, so we can, this is all part of the flex layout scheme. Can make the buttons hug to the left, to the right, center them, provide space in between, around, space them out evenly. We want them to go to the right. Now, one thing to note is when this gets displayed, when we preview this in the browser, these buttons will inherit the font size from the last paragraph. So it's really important to put this paragraph in because that's 14 point. That'll prevent the buttons from inheriting the 36 point type. Now we'll add our script. Click on, regardless of the button you click on, in the button layout, it'll always go to the first button. So here we add the script that happens when you select the button. So we always have to, for adding script, we must choose execute commands as our option. That gives us the ability to either put code in here, script in here, or click on edit. Now what we'll do is generate a number. We'll create a variable, a local variable called computer number. Essentially what we're doing is using the system function random, which will yield a number from 0 to 1. We'll multiply that with 100. So the lowest number we're going to get is 0, the highest number is 100. If you've seen this type of code before, you might have seen a minimum number over here to the left. We don't need that because it's assumed the minimum number is 0. Now, we do understand that this might generate a fraction, so we want to round off the fraction. We use the round function. It has an input, computer number, so that's the original number. So computer number is the input to this function. It then rounds the number, rounds it up or down, trims off the fraction, and assigns that to computer number. Now we need to place that number into global memory. Now here the names don't have to match. These are two different types of memory. This is global memory, so we can call it computer num here. And I'm doing this to illustrate the fact that we have a difference between local and global. So this is a label of a container in global memory. And by global, we can access it from any script. This is a local variable that goes away. This memory goes away once this page of script gets executed. Lastly, what we want to do is create a variable called tries, which will store the number of attempts on the part of the player to guess the right number. We'll initialize that to 0. Now if you test this, we will see an error with round because round isn't, it's available, but it's been omitted, accidentally omitted from the library. So when we test this thing out, it says, round is not a function, but it is. Feel free to use it, and that'll be corrected in future versions. Let's just double check, make sure that we've done everything correctly. It looks good. Now we'll go off to, ensure we save this, and we'll go to the second button. Again, execute command. We'll go into our editor. The first thing we're going to do is use a convenience function, append value, in order to append 1 to try. So every time the player guesses, that we're adding 1 more to whatever the old value of tries is. So this again happens in global memory. We need to retrieve that to make use of it for our local memory. We can call this anything, number of attempts, for example. And we're going to get the value of tries and assign it to that local variable. I'll go ahead and test to remove this red. So append value, we're appending 1 to the old value of tries, then we're retrieving that value and assigning that to number of attempts. And we'll use number of attempts locally in our script here. The other thing that we'll retrieve is the randomly generated number. So we'll get value for that. And that was computer num, as you'll recall. And we'll do the same thing for our player number. We'll get the value. And that was from the input. And remember, the variable name that was associated with the input was player num. Now we'll create our if statement. So the first if statement will be if computer number is equal to, now that's not an assignment, that's a comparison operator now, player number. If computer number is the same as player number, then we're going to execute any code, any script that's within this left parentheses, left parens, and right parens. So let's just take a look at the structure. We have a keyword, we have the comparison. If the comparison turns out to be true, if in fact computer number does equal player number, then anything inside these parentheses will be executed. In our case, we'll display a message. Now here's a little tricky part. Sometimes when you're first starting out with this, it kind of can be a head scratcher. I'll explain it, I'll type it out, and then explain it in detail. So what's happening here is, first of all, we're displaying a message. The first part of the message is in quotes, so that's what we call a string of characters. If it's a bunch of characters inside quotes, we call it a string. Then what we're adding to that string is not the word number of attempts, but the value that it represents. So not the variable name, but the value of the variable. And then we're finishing the sentence with tries, exclamation. So what will be read out? Let's say this is the 8th try. You got it in 8 tries. So really this is not an add. This is a concatenation operator. It's taking this string, adding this value, and then adding the string, concatenating. It's taking this string, concatenating 8 concatenating the end of the sentence. So it's a concatenation operator. It's quite different than, taking uh, an arithmetic number like 1 and adding 1 and getting 2. It's not that at all. What it's doing is adding to the string of characters. Now that all happens if this evaluates to true. We can extend our if statement with an else if. Well, if they don't equal each other, is computer number greater than player number? And if it is, we can add a message. Now, they're either equal or computer number is greater than player number, but there's one last part. Let's say they don't equal each other and computer number is not greater than the guessed number. Then we have one final else statement. So if it's not equal and not greater, then it must be, well, what we type in, guess lower. Now there's a variety of things to pay attention to here. Again, here's the if statement. There's a right parentheses, or excuse me, a left parentheses, a right parentheses. Then there's a left curly brace and a right curly brace. We have the statement that gets executed in between the curly braces. We have else if separated by a space. So these are two words followed immediately by the left parens. Here's what gets evaluated and checked. If this is true, then anything inside this block gets executed. Else, if neither this or this gets executed, then this will always get executed. So it'll be one of these three things. We're done. We can just, if our script doesn't work, we'll have to come back and debug it. Go ahead and hit OK. Let's try it out. Now I've clicked on preview in browser. So LodeStar will now serve up this application to the default browser. Here's our background color that we chose in themes. And here we go. Now you can see that this is all looking pretty good. Before we enter a number, we'll generate. And so from 0 to 100, let's divide and conquer. Let's type in 50 and guess. Well, we have to guess higher. I'll divide and conquer again, type in 75. Oh, we got to go higher yet. Let's type in 87. Now we have to go lower. How about 80? Got to go lower. So we got it in 5 tries. So that isn't too bad. And you can see now, before it looked like gobbledygook, where you saw you got it in and then there's a concatenation operator. But now the player just sees this as one sentence. You got it in 5 tries. So that concludes this presentation on using the if statement. Highly recommend that you just step through my instructions and attempt to create this for yourself, and then certainly apply it to your future designs. Thanks so much for watching.